The unexpected guest. The sound of heels echoing on the marble floor spread through the immaculate lobby of Sterling and Partners. Isabel, her emerald eyes flashing with fury, slammed the guest list onto the polished glass desk. "Are you serious, Ethan? Claudia Evans. Your ex from New York is going to be at our wedding," she yelled. Ethan Sterling, 39, didn't look up from the contracts he was reviewing. Only his jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, the only sign that his fiancée's words had landed. "It's just out of courtesy, Isabel. Claudia and I ended on good terms." "Liar!" Isabel walked to the window overlooking downtown. "Nobody invites their ex to their wedding out of courtesy, especially when that ex was—" The words got stuck in her throat. She was about to say, "the love of your life," but she couldn't. After 2 years of dating, she knew Ethan had never looked at her the way he looked at pictures of that architect from New York. "Forget it," she muttered, grabbing her Chanel purse. "But don't expect me to be happy about this." As Isabel stormed out, Ethan finally put down his papers. His assistant, Marcus, timidly poked his head in. "Everything okay, Mr. Sterling?" "Yes," Ethan nodded, but his mind was already 600 miles away, in a small architecture studio where a brown-haired woman designed homes for families who could barely afford them. "You can't ask me to leave everything behind, Ethan!" Claudia had yelled that last night. Her hands were shaking as she packed her belongings. "My work, my projects, the people who rely on me. It's just 2 years in Paris. When I get back, we can build an empire together. I don't want an empire. I want to make a difference." That had been their last real conversation. The next day, Ethan boarded his flight to Paris, and Claudia disappeared from his life as if she had never existed. Now, as he looked at the elegant invitation he had commissioned, Ethan wondered why the hell he had added her name to the list. Maybe he needed to see that she had moved on. Maybe he wanted to show off his success. Or maybe, deep down, he hoped she wouldn't come. Meanwhile, in New York, Clara Evans held that same invitation. Her hands no longer trembled as they had 5 years ago. At 34, she had learned to control her emotions, especially in front of her daughter. "Who is it, Mommy?" Sophia, 4 years and 8 months old, asked, curled up next to her mother on the small living room sofa. Her honey-colored eyes, identical to a certain CEO's in New York, shone with curiosity. "An old friend, my love. He's getting married." "And are we going to the wedding?" Clara looked at her daughter, a girl who looked more and more like her father every day. The same crooked smile. The same way she frowned when concentrating. The same head tilt when asking questions. "I don't know, Princess." But Clara did know. She had made her decision the moment she saw the elegant envelope in her mailbox. After almost 5 years of keeping the biggest secret of her life, it was time for Ethan Sterling to know he had a daughter. Her sister Maria walked into the kitchen and found Clara silently crying while Sophia played in the garden. "Are you going to tell him?" Maria asked, although she already knew the answer. "I tried to contact him when Sophia was born. His secretary told me he was too busy with his new life and didn't want any complications from his past. But now he's invited you." "Exactly." Clara wiped away her tears. "It's time he knows the truth. Sophia deserves to know her father, even if he's a millionaire bastard who abandons the people he loves." Maria walked to the window, where Sophia was building sandcastles, with the same obsessive concentration Ethan showed when reviewing architectural blueprints. "What if he tries to take her away from you?" "He can't. Legally, I'm her only mother. He doesn't even know she exists. And if he doesn't believe you—" Clara smiled bitterly. "One look will be enough. Sophia is identical to him when he was a child. His own mother will realize it instantly." That night, as she tucked Sophia into bed, the girl asked the question Clara had been dreading. "Mommy, why don't I have a daddy like other kids?" Clara sat on the bed and stroked her daughter's dark hair. You do have a daddy, my love. He just doesn't know you exist yet. And when will I see him? Very soon, princess. Very soon. The next day, Clara called the airline and bought 2 tickets. For the first time in 5 years, she was going to see Ethan Sterling. And this time, she wasn't going alone. The truth is revealed, and Ethan is faced with a choice. What do you think he'll do? Share your thoughts in the comments. The truth under the Catalan sun. The coastal resort glittered under the Catalan sun, like something out of a magazine. Ethan adjusted his tuxedo for the 5th time in 10 minutes, sweating despite the air conditioning. The guests were already filling the main terrace, all dressed in white, as Isabel had requested. You're more nervous than when you close a deal with Japanese investors, his brother Richard joked, adjusting his tie. Are you sure you want to get married? Of course I do, Ethan responded automatically, but his voice sounded hollow even to him. His mother, Elena, approached him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Son, why do I feel like your heart isn't here? Ethan was about to answer when he saw a taxi pull up in the reception area. A woman got out of the back seat, wearing a simple but elegant navy blue dress. Her brown hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders. It was Clara, but she wasn't alone. A little girl, in a pink dress and white shoes, took Clara's hand and looked around, wide-eyed. Even from a distance, Ethan could see that those eyes were the exact same color as his. Who is that girl? Elena asked, squinting. Ethan couldn't answer. His world had just changed forever. At the reception desk, Clara filled out the registration forms, while Sophia tugged on her dress. Mommy, this place is like a castle, the girl whispered. Yes, my love, but remember what we talked about. You have to be very good. The man who looks like me is going to be here. Clara knelt down to her daughter's level. It's possible, princess. If you see him, don't say anything yet, okay? Sophia nodded solemnly, although she didn't quite understand why her mother seemed so nervous. An hour later, during the cocktail hour, Sophia got bored of sitting next to Clara. While her mother talked to other guests, the girl snuck away to explore. Ethan was on the main terrace, discussing the details of the new Valencia hotel with some investors, when he felt someone tug on his jacket. Excuse me, mister, a small voice said. Are you the one who's getting married? Ethan looked down and gasped. The girl in front of him was like looking into a mirror of the past. The same eyes, the same crooked smile, even the same way of standing with one hand on her hip. Yes, he managed to say, crouching down to her level. What's your name? Sophia Evans Sterling, the girl replied proudly. Ethan's world reeled. Sterling? Why did she have his last name? Where is your mommy, Sophia? Over there. She pointed to where Clara was chatting with an older couple. She says you and I look a lot alike. Before Ethan could respond, Clara hurried over. Sophia, you can't just wander off like that, she scolded her daughter, but her eyes were fixed on Ethan. Hello, Ethan. Clara. Ethan slowly straightened up. Is she my daughter? The investors who had witnessed the awkward scene discreetly walked away. Elena, who had been watching from afar, approached with determined steps. And who is this beautiful little princess? She asked, studying every detail of Sophia's face. I'm Sophia, the girl replied with a smile. My mommy says we came to see the man who looks like me get married. Elena looked at Ethan, then at Clara, and finally back at Sophia. Her eyes filled with understanding and tears. My God, she whispered. She's identical to Ethan when he was a little boy. The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan felt as if the ground was moving beneath his feet. We need to talk, he said to Clara, his voice hoarse. After the ceremony, she replied. I didn't come here to ruin your wedding, But Isabel had appeared at the exact moment to hear those last words. Dressed in a sleek white dress, she walked up to the group with a forced smile. "Ruin what wedding?" she asked, although her eyes had already registered the impossible-to-ignore resemblance between Ethan and the little girl. "Isabel, this is Clara," Ethan said. "And this is Sophia?" the girl completed, extending her small hand. "Are you the bride? You're very pretty." Isabel shook Sophia's hand mechanically, but her gaze had hardened. "How old is she?" she asked in a voice that was too calm. 4 years and 8 months, Clara replied, lifting her chin defiantly. Isabel did the math quickly. The breakup had been 5 years ago. The dates matched perfectly. "Ethan," her voice trembled, "I need to talk to you now." "Isabel, I didn't know," he said. "Now!" she yelled, losing the composure she had maintained all afternoon. The closest guests turned to watch the unfolding drama. Sophia hid behind her mother's legs, scared by the yelling. "It's okay, my love," Clara whispered. "Adults sometimes talk loudly, but it's okay." Elena walked over to Sophia and knelt in front of her. "Do you like to build sandcastles, princess?" Sophia nodded shyly. "Your daddy liked it too when he was little like you." The girl looked at Ethan with wide eyes. "Are you my daddy?" Ethan felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. He couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. He could do nothing but look at this perfect little girl, who was so obviously his daughter. He began to say. But Isabel interrupted him. "Enough!" she screamed. "Everyone to the presidential suite. Now! This conversation is not going to happen in public." As they walked toward the hotel, Sophia whispered to her mother, "Why is the pretty lady so angry?" Clara squeezed her daughter's hand. "Because sometimes the truth hurts, my love, but everything is going to be okay." But seeing Isabel's furious face and Ethan's expression of shock, Clara wasn't sure everything was going to be okay. After 5 years of keeping a secret, it had finally exploded at the worst possible time. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it and subscribe. To see how this dramatic tale unfolds, what do you think Isabel will do now? Share your thoughts in the comments. The confession. When truths come to light, the presidential suite had never witnessed such a tense silence. Isabel paced back and forth like a caged lion, while Ethan stood motionless by the window. Clara sat on the sofa with Sophia on her lap. The girl played absently with the buttons on her mother's dress. "I want a paternity test," Isabel suddenly declared. "Isabel, right now," Ethan began. "Don't call me Isabel," she yelled at him. "Look me in the eye and tell me you didn't know you had a daughter." Ethan looked at her directly. "I didn't know. I swear on my life, I didn't know." "And I'm supposed to believe you?" Isabel turned to Clara. "Why didn't you ever tell him?" Clara took a deep breath before responding. "I tried. When Sophia was born, I called his office at least 10 times. His secretary told me Mr. Sterling was too busy building his new life and didn't want complications from his past." "That's impossible." Ethan frowned. "I never gave that instruction." "Well, someone did." Clara's voice rose for the first time. "Do you think it was easy to raise your daughter alone? To work double shifts to pay for the birth, the diapers, daycare?" Sophia looked up, worried by her mother's tone. "Why are you sad, Mommy?" Clara immediately calmed down and kissed her daughter's forehead. "I'm not sad, my love. Just tired." Elena, who had remained silent, finally spoke. "The girl is a Sterling. Anyone with eyes can see it." "Exactly." Isabel turned back to Ethan. "How did you not realize for 5 years?" "You never asked about her." Ethan closed his eyes, remembering. "The first few months after I broke up with Clara, I tried to call her several times, but her phone was disconnected. I thought she didn't want anything to do with me. I changed my number because I couldn't pay the bills, Clara admitted. I was pregnant, without a stable job, and my pride was the only thing I had left. How convenient, Isabel scoffed. You show up on the day of our wedding with a child you say is his daughter. How much do you want? $1 million? 5? Clara stood up so quickly that Sophia almost fell. Be careful what you say in front of my daughter. Her voice was dangerously low. I didn't come here for money. I came because Sophia deserves to know her father. Mommy, don't yell. Sophia started to cry. The girl's crying cut the tension like a knife. Ethan moved instinctively. Hey, don't cry, princess, he said softly, not knowing exactly what to do. Sophia looked at him through her tears. Why is everyone so angry? Ethan looked to Clara for help. She nodded slightly. Because sometimes adults don't know how to talk about important things, Ethan explained, kneeling in front of Sophia. But no one is angry at you. Are you really my daddy? The simple question broke Ethan. He looked at this perfect little girl, with his eyes, his smile, even his head tilt, when asking questions. I think so, my love. I think I am your daddy. Sophia smiled for the first time since the yelling started. I knew I had a daddy. She turned to Clara. Mommy, I don't have to wonder what my daddy is like anymore. Isabel watched the scene with a broken heart, not for Ethan, but for the charade she had been living in. I have something to confess, she said suddenly. Everyone looked at her. This marriage was never about love. Silence returned, but this time it was from surprise, not tension. What are you saying? Ethan asked. Isabel sank heavily into a chair. My family is bankrupt. My father gambled away our entire fortune on stupid investments. When I met you, my parents saw the perfect opportunity. A wedding that would save our name and our finances. Isabel, let me finish, she pleaded. At first I tried to fall in love with you. You're handsome, successful, kind, but I always knew your heart was somewhere else. Every time you talked about your work in New York, your voice changed. Every time they mentioned sustainable architecture, you smiled in a way you never did with me. I played the part of the perfect fiancé for 2 years, Isabel continued, because it was easier than admitting my life was a mess. But seeing that little girl, seeing you three together, I realized I deserve something real. Ethan walked over to Isabel. Why did you never tell me? Because I was afraid, and because you didn't seem entirely convinced about marrying me either. It was true, Ethan said, and he knew it. I'm sorry, Isabel. We should have talked about this a long time ago. Yes, we should have, she sighed. But maybe everything happened this way for a reason. Maybe we both needed this child to show up to realize what we really want. Elena walked over to Isabel. You're a very brave woman for telling the truth. I don't feel brave. I feel like a fool who wasted 2 years of her life. You didn't waste them, Clara interjected unexpectedly. You learned to know yourself better, and now you can look for something real. Isabel looked at her in surprise. You don't hate me? I was going to marry the father of your daughter. The father who didn't know he had a daughter, Clara corrected. There are no villains here, Isabel, just people who made mistakes. Sophia, who had been listening without fully understanding, walked over to Isabel. You're not going to be my daddy's wife anymore, Sophia said. Isabel smiled sadly. No, little one, but maybe I can be your friend. Can we be friends, even though my daddy isn't marrying you? Of course. Ethan looked at the 3 women in the room. His ex-fiancée, who had just freed herself from a lie. His ex-girlfriend, who had raised his daughter alone for 5 years. And his daughter, who seemed to be adapting to all this madness better than any of the adults. So, what do we do now? He asked. Elena stood up. Now we're going to cancel a wedding, and we're going to get to know my granddaughter properly." Sophia clapped her hands in excitement. "Are you my grandma?" "Yes, my love, I am your grandma, and I have many years to make up for with you." As Isabel made the call to cancel the ceremony, and Elena began to ask Sophia questions, Ethan and Clara found themselves alone on the balcony. 5 years, Ethan murmured. 5 years without knowing I had a daughter. "I'm sorry," Clara whispered. "I should have pushed harder." "No," Ethan looked at her. "I should have pushed harder. I should have fought for us." "It doesn't matter what we should have done," Clara said. "What matters is what we're going to do now." Ethan nodded, looking inside, where Sophia was showing her new grandma how to braid hair. "I want to be part of her life, Clara. Truly, she needs her father. But it won't be easy. Sophia and I have our routine, our rules. I'll learn." For the first time in 5 years, Clara believed that maybe, just maybe, things could work out. This is getting really good. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. What do you think will happen when Ethan tries to become Sophia's father? Tell me in the comments. Learning to be a dad 3 months after the canceled wedding, Ethan got off the plane in New York for the 5th time. His Friday routine had become sacred. Leave work, arrive in time for dinner with Sophia, and return on Sunday night. Clara was waiting for him at the airport with Sophia, who ran toward him, yelling, "Daddy!" with a joy that still surprised him every time. "How was your week, princess?" Ethan asked, lifting her up. "I learned to write my full name," Sophia announced proudly. "Sophia Evans Sterling. Mommy says now that you've acknowledged me, I can use both last names." Ethan looked at Clara over his daughter's head. The legal process had been complicated, but necessary. Paternity test, birth certificate update, shared custody documents. Everything was now official. "How are things at work?" Clara asked as they walked to the car. "Good. The investors finally understand that I want to focus more on sustainable projects. In fact," Ethan hesitated, "I have a proposal to make to you." Clara frowned. "If it's about money again?" "I already told you it's not. It's not money," Ethan interrupted her. "It's real work." Back at Clara's apartment, while Sophia played in her room, Ethan unrolled some blueprints on the dining room table. "It's a social housing project in New York. 500 sustainable homes for low-income families. I need an architect who understands the real needs of people." Clara studied the blueprints with a critical eye. "And what do you gain from this?" "The profit margins on social housing are minimal." "I gain working with you. I gain doing something that really matters." "Ethan, it's not an excuse to be close to me," she said quickly. "Well, not just that. I've been thinking a lot these past few months about what I really want to do with my life." Clara sat across from him. "And what do you want to do?" "I want Sophia to be proud of her daddy, not just because he has money, but because he does good things in the world." It was the first time Ethan had talked about changing his business focus, and Clara could see that he was serious. You'd need to review the entire project, the materials, the costs, the location. Of course. And you'd have total control over the architectural design. Sophia ran into the living room with a doll in her arms. "Daddy, will you help me braid Rosita's hair?" Ethan looked at the doll as if it were a bomb. "Me? I don't know how to braid, princess." "But you have to learn. Daddies have to know how to braid." Clara smiled as she watched Ethan clumsily try to handle the doll's synthetic hair. His large fingers, used to signing multi-million-dollar contracts, struggled with something as simple as a basic braid. "Not like that, Daddy," Sophia said, impatient. "Look, it's easy." With the infinite patience of a 5-year-old, Sophia taught her father how to divide the hair into 3 sections and cross them over. "See?" she said proudly, when Ethan finally managed a crooked but recognizable braid. "Now you're a real daddy." Ethan felt something strange in his chest, a mix of pride and terror he had never experienced before. That night, after Sophia fell asleep, Ethan and Clara sat on the small apartment balcony. "How do you do it?" Ethan asked suddenly. "Do what?" "Be a parent. Make decisions that affect another person every day. The responsibility is terrifying." "Terrifying," Clara completed, "especially at the beginning. The first few months after Sophia was born, I barely slept. Not because of her, but because I was afraid of doing something wrong." "And how did you overcome the fear?" "I haven't overcome it completely, but I realize that love is stronger than fear, and that it's okay to make mistakes while you're learning." Ethan nodded in silence. "There's something else," he finally said. "I've been thinking about moving to New York." Clara looked at him, surprised. "Sophia needs her father to be present, not just visiting. And I need to be close to her, to both of you." "Ethan, you don't have to change your whole life for us. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for myself." He looked at her directly. "In London, I have a successful company and an empty life. Here, I have a family." The word family floated between them, full of possibilities and fears. "It would be complicated," Clara murmured. "Custody, schools, work. I've already talked to my lawyers. I can manage most of my business from here, and for what I need to be in person, I can travel." "And are you sure? I don't want you to regret it in a year and decide that small-town life isn't for you." Ethan moved closer to her on the small patio sofa. "Clara, in these 3 months, I've been happier than I have been in the last 5 years. Seeing Sophia grow, even if it's just on weekends, is the best thing that's ever happened to me. She's been happier too. She asks for you every day." "And you?" Ethan asked softly. "How have you been?" Clara took a moment to answer, confused, scared, but also happy. "Seeing Sophia with her father, seeing how much you love her, is what I always wanted for her." "And what do you want for yourself?" This was the question Clara had been avoiding for 3 months. Every Friday that Ethan arrived, every Sunday he left, she felt something that she had buried deep down 5 years ago. "I want Sophia to have a stable family. I don't want her to have to choose between her parents." "You haven't answered my question," Clara sighed. "I don't know what I want for myself, Ethan. For 5 years, everything has revolved around Sophia. Her needs, her happiness, her future. Maybe it's time you start thinking about it." Before Clara could respond, they heard Sophia's voice from her room. "Mommy, I had a nightmare." Both of them stood up immediately. It was the first time Ethan had experienced one of those nighttime parenting moments. "What do I do?" he asked nervously. "Follow me," Clara told him, "and learn." They found Sophia sitting in her bed, tears on her cheeks. "What happened, my love?" Clara asked, sitting beside her. "I dreamed that Daddy left again and never came back." Ethan felt as if a knife had been plunged into his heart. He walked slowly to the bed. "Princess, look at me," he said softly. "I'm not going to leave again, I promise. But what if you have to work far away? Then we'll go with you and Mommy, wherever I am." "Really?" Sophia looked at him with hopeful eyes. "Really? Now, do you want me to tell you a story to make the fear go away?" Ethan didn't know any children's stories, so he improvised a tale about an architect princess who built sustainable castles. Clara listened from the doorway, smiling as she watched her daughter fall asleep in her father's arms. When they left the room, Ethan turned to Clara. "I don't want her to have nightmares about me again." "Then don't give her reasons to." "I won't. I swear I won't." For the first time in 5 years, Clara completely believed a promise from Ethan Sterling. If you liked this roller coaster of emotions, don't forget to like and subscribe. What do you think will happen when a crisis hits this new family? Tell me in the comments. Second chances. A year after the canceled wedding, the same coastal resort was preparing for another ceremony. But this time, everything was different. Ethan adjusted his white linen shirt as he watched the small ceremony being set up on the beach. Only 30 guests, instead of the 300 from the previous wedding. Close family, true friends, and the people who truly mattered. Nervous? Asked Richard, his brother, who was now serving as best man. Not at all, Ethan replied. And for the first time in his life, he meant it completely. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Elena approached with Sophia by the hand. The girl was wearing a light pink dress and a fresh flower crown in her hair that she had helped choose herself. Ready, princess? Ethan asked his daughter. More than ready, Sophia replied, proudly showing him the small cushion where she was carrying the rings. Do you think Mommy looks pretty? She always looks pretty, Ethan smiled. But today she looks perfect. In the hotel suite, Clara looked at herself in the mirror. She was wearing a simple ivory dress that she had bought at a local boutique. There were no famous designers or dresses worth thousands of dollars, just something beautiful and authentic, like everything she had built with Ethan over the last year. Ready? Asked Maria, her sister, who had traveled from New York to be her maid of honor. More than ready, Clara replied, touching the pearl necklace that had been her grandmother's. Do you know what I like most about all of this? What? That it feels real. The first time Ethan was going to get married, everything felt like a play. This feels like real life. There was a knock on the door. It was Isabel, who had arrived the night before. Can I come in? She asked shyly. Isabel, Clara hugged her. I'm so glad you came. I wouldn't have missed it for anything. Besides, someone had to make sure you got married this time. The three women laughed. Over the past year, Isabel had become an unexpected but genuine friend. After freeing herself from her family's expectations, she had gone back to college to study psychology and now worked as a therapist in a community clinic. How are things with Leo? Clara asked, referring to the elementary school teacher Isabel had met in a support group. Good. Very good. In fact, Isabel blushed. He's so different from everything I thought I wanted. He's simple, honest, and he makes me laugh every day. That's true, love, Maria said. When someone makes you laugh even on the difficult days. Exactly, Clara nodded. Like Ethan with Sophia. Yesterday I saw him teaching her how to braid all her doll's hair, and he did it with so much patience. You're so lucky that he became a good dad so quickly, Isabel commented. It's not luck, Clara replied. It's love and a lot of effort from both of us. The ceremony began at sunset. Ethan waited at the makeshift altar on the sand, where a year earlier he had been dressed in a tuxedo, waiting for another woman. For the wrong reasons. The music started, and Sophia walked down the sand aisle, scattering rose petals and waving to all the guests like a little queen. The guests smiled, not just because she looked adorable, but because they all knew the story of how that family had become complete. Then Clara appeared on her father's arm, who had traveled from his hometown to give away his daughter. Ethan felt his breath catch, not because of the dress or the hairstyle, but because of Clara's smile. It was the same smile that had made him fall in love 7 years ago, but now it shone with a confidence and happiness she hadn't had before. Dear ones, the officiant began in English, but Ethan interrupted him. Excuse me, could we do this in Spanish? He looked at Clara. It feels more like us. Clara nodded, moved by the gesture. The officiant smiled and began again. Family and friends, we are gathered here to celebrate the love between Ethan and Clara. When it was time for the vows, Ethan took Clara's hands and spoke from the heart. Clara, 5 years ago I lost you because I believed that success was measured in money and recognition. I was wrong. True success is waking up every morning next to the person you love. It's watching your daughter grow. It's building something together that's worthwhile. I promise to be the man you and Sophia deserve. I promise that my family will always be my priority. And I promise to love you not only on the easy days, but especially on the difficult ones. Clara had tears in her eyes as she began to speak. Ethan, for 5 years we raised Sophia separately, but she was always our daughter. Today we officially become a family, but in my heart, we already were a long time ago. I promise to be your partner in everything, in work, in parenting, in dreams, and in worries. I promise that I will never again keep secrets that separate us. And I promise to build with you the life we always wanted, but that we now know how to value. When they exchanged rings, Sophia shouted from her front row seat, "Now kiss like in the movies!" Everyone laughed, including Ethan and Clara, who kissed while their daughter clapped excitedly. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant announced. "You may kiss again." At the small reception on the hotel terrace, Ethan took the microphone to give a speech. "I want to thank everyone for being here, but especially I want to thank someone who is not sitting at a guest table." He looked at Isabel, who was chatting with Leo near the bar. "Isabel, thank you for your bravery a year ago. If you hadn't had the courage to tell the truth, none of us would be where we are today." Isabel raised her glass from afar, smiling. "I also want to apologize publicly," Ethan continued, "to Isabel for making her waste 2 years of her life on something that wasn't real, to Clara for being too proud to fight for us 5 years ago, and to Sophia for missing the first years of her life." Sophia stood up in her chair. "You're forgiven, Daddy, but don't ever leave again." "Never again, Princess. That's a promise." The party continued late into the night, with traditional Spanish music that Ethan had insisted on including. Sophia danced with all the guests, especially with her paternal grandmother and her new godmother, Isabel. Epilogue. Castles in the sand. 5 years had passed since that beach wedding that changed everything for the Sterling Evans family. The Sitch's sun shone with the same intensity, but now it illuminated a very different scene on the sand. Sophia, now 9, was directing the construction operations of the most ambitious sandcastle they had attempted. Her hair, now in 2 perfect braids made by her father, swayed in the sea breeze as she explained her architectural vision. "Daddy, the main tower needs more reinforcement at the base," she instructed him with the seriousness of an engineer. "And Mommy, can you make the bridge more sustainable? Use that seaweed to reinforce it." Ethan smiled as he followed his eldest daughter's orders. At 44, he had discovered that the best construction projects were not measured in millions of dollars, but in smiles and family memories. "Hey, Chief Architect," he said to Sophia, "aren't you forgetting someone?" Sophia looked to where Clara was carrying Leo, her 2-year-old little brother, who was trying to help by throwing handfuls of sand in random directions. "Leo, come and help us!" Sophia yelled. "But don't throw sand, okay?" The boy ran toward them on his chubby legs, shouting, "Castle! Castle!" with the excitement characteristic of a 2-year-old. Clara, now 39, approached with a smile. Her sustainable architecture firm had expanded considerably, and she had just won a national award for her social housing projects. But she still preferred these family moments to any professional recognition. "How's the project going?" she asked, sitting in the sand next to Ethan. "Complicated," he replied, pointing to the blueprints Sophia had drawn in the sand. "Apparently, we need twin towers connected by a sustainable bridge, with a natural drainage system and themed rooms. Sounds like something we could propose for the new development in Valencia, Clara joked. Over these 5 years, Ethan had completely transformed his business focus. His company now specialized exclusively in sustainable development and social housing, working closely with Clara's firm. They had developed projects all along the Spanish coast, always with the principle that architecture should serve communities, not just profits. "Look who's here!" Sophia yelled, pointing to the path that led to the beach. Isabel was walking toward them hand in hand with Leo, her 3-year-old husband. Behind them came their 1-year-old twins, Daniel and Emma, in a double stroller that Leo was expertly pushing. "Aunt Isabel! Uncle Leo!" Sophia ran to hug them. Isabel, now 36, had blossomed completely after freeing herself from family expectations. Her work as a family therapist had led her to specialize in non-traditional families, and she had found in Leo a partner who valued her independence and ambition. "How are my favorite architects doing?" Isabel asked, hugging Clara and Ethan. "Building the castle of the century?" "Sophia says she's going to be a castle architect when she grows up." "And what exactly does that mean?" Leo asked, holding Daniel, who immediately began to pull on his mustache. "It means I'm going to design houses that look like castles, but that are ecological and affordable, so that all families can live like kings," Sophia explained, with total seriousness. Isabel and Clara exchanged looks. The girl had inherited her mother's social vision and her father's business ambition, combining them in a completely new way. "That sounds perfect," Isabel said. "When you open your firm, I'll be your first client." As the adults chatted and the children played, Elena walked slowly along the beach. At 72, she had moved to New York to be close to her grandchildren and had become the quintessential loving grandmother. "Where is my star architect?" she asked, opening her arms. Sophia ran to her grandmother, who always had a craft project or fascinating stories to tell. "Grandma, will you help me with the castle windows? They have to be special." "Of course, my love. But first, tell me about school." As Sophia told her grandmother about her science project, a rainwater collection system for the school garden, Ethan and Clara had a moment to observe their extended family. "Can you imagine if someone had told us 6 years ago that we would be like this?" Clara murmured. "I would never have believed it," Ethan replied. "But do you know what surprises me the most?" "What?" "That Isabel and Leo are some of our best friends. That your sister Maria is dating my brother Richard. That our children are growing up surrounded by so much love. And that you're as good a father as I always knew you could be." Ethan looked at her with that smile that still melted her after all these years. "Do you know what else surprises me?" he said softly. "What?" "That I fall more in love with you every day." Before Clara could respond, Leo ran over, his hands full of sand. "Mommy, Daddy, help me! Castle!" "Of course, my love," Clara said, picking him up. "But first, let's clean those little hands." As Clara carried Leo to the water, Ethan stayed to watch the whole scene. Sophia explaining the principles of sustainable architecture to Isabel and Leo. Elena playing with the twins. Maria and Richard arriving with a cooler full of drinks, and his wife teaching their youngest son how to wash his hands in the gentle waves of the shore. 6 years ago, on this very beach, his life had exploded into 1,000 pieces. He had lost a wedding, but he had gained a family. He had lost an apparently perfect life, but he had found an authentic life in reality. His phone rang. It was a work message, probably about the new housing project for teachers in Valencia. 6 years ago, he would have answered immediately. Today, he simply turned off his phone. "Daddy, come see, it's ready!" Sophia yelled. Ethan walked over to the most elaborate castle they had ever built. It had towers, bridges, a system of canals, and small flags made with sticks and scraps of fabric that Isabel had brought in her purse. "It's perfect, Princess," he said, kneeling next to his daughter. "It's the best castle we've ever made." "Because now we're more," Sophia replied. "Every year we're more of a family, so the castles can be bigger. And next year? Next year it's going to be even bigger," she declared with confidence. "Because more family is coming." Ethan looked at her, confused. "More family?" Sophia pointed to where Clara was returning with Leo in her arms. But now, her free hand rested instinctively on her belly, in a gesture Ethan knew well. "Mommy hasn't told me yet," Sophia whispered. "But it's just like when she had Leo in her tummy. I know, because I'm very observant." Ethan felt as if his heart was going to burst. He looked at Clara, who smiled at him with that special smile he had learned to recognize. "Is it true?" he asked as she approached. "I wanted to wait until the end of the day to tell you," Clara murmured. "But someone is too smart for her own good." Ethan hugged her, also carrying Leo, who protested being squeezed between his parents. "When?" he asked excitedly. "In March, just in time for the 6th anniversary of our first wedding. I mean, your canceled wedding." Sophia hugged them all from below. "Now we're really going to need a bigger house," she announced. "Can I help design it?" "Of course," Ethan laughed. "But first, let's finish this castle." As the sun set over the Sitges coast, the Sterling Evans family finished their most ambitious castle. It wasn't perfect. Some towers were crooked, the bridge was a little wonky, and Leo had left footprints all over. But it was theirs. It was real. It was built with love, patience, and the understanding that the most beautiful things in life don't always turn out according to the original plan. "Ready for the photo?" Isabel asked, raising her camera. "Wait!" Sophia yelled. "Something important is missing." She ran to the castle and planted a small flag on the highest tower. She had made it with a stick and a piece of paper on which she had written Sterling Evans family in her best 9-year-old handwriting. "Now it's ready," she declared proudly. The photo that Isabel took that afternoon would become the family's favorite. Ethan and Clara sitting on the sand, Leo on his mother's lap, Sophia standing between her parents with her arms open as if presenting her masterpiece, and behind them the most crooked and perfect castle they had ever built. But the true masterpiece was not the sand castle. It was the family they had built brick by brick, day by day, with second chances, hard truths, and the understanding that true love doesn't always arrive at the perfect time. But when it does, it has the power to transform everything. I hope this version captures the essence and emotion of your original story while adhering to all your requests. Tell me what you think.